So hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Mujibur Rahman and I am working as a data analyst. So this video is regarding the prediction whether a patient is diabetic or not using various machine learning techniques. This is a project which I am doing as part of the internship provided by a startup named Crisp Metrics. The link of the website of which I pasted in the video description. So without wasting any more time, let's begin the video. So first of all, we import the required libraries. Before we begin, I am doing this in Google Collaboratory because I already have a Jupyter notebook in my system, but that system does not have the recording functionality, which is very bad. So that's why I'm using another system which has recording functionality, and I copied my code just for recording purpose. So here I'm in here let's get into the coding. Here I'm importing the basic libraries. I mean the libraries which are required for this machine learning modeling. So NumPy and Pandas, as we all know, these are the basic libraries for analysis. Here, these libraries I didn't use in my Jupyter notebook, but instead I'm using here in Google Colab so that I can upload the files easily with ease. I'll explain this later. This from Matplotlib and Seaborn, the visualization libraries. Here, a feature engineering library also I am using, standard scaler. I'll describe what I'm gonna do with this. Here I have selected various machine learning models. The first line is basically the train test split and the grid search CV. Train test split we are all aware, and grid search CV are also we are all aware. I'll explain this later in the video. So here are all the machine learning models and even the performance library. This I have written so that we can enable the complete display of the array or data frame or series instead of just like first three rows, then dot dot dot, then another three rows. Instead of that, we can display the entire things. And here ignoring the warnings, because warnings take a lot of space in the screen also, in the notebook also, in the memory also. So those things and all we are ignoring. So let's run this cell. All required language imported. So now here we are loading the data. This is the functionality of Google Colab. So I am choosing a file. What file would it be? It's the diabetes data. So after this data is been loaded, it will be saved in the cloud. I mean my drive. So now we are loading this data and printing its shape and the first 5 rows. So here it has 768 rows and 9 columns. Each of these columns is pregnancies, glucose, blood pressure, skin thickness, insulin, BMI, DPF, age and outcome. Here outcome is our target variable. Outcome stands for whether the patient is diabetic. If it is diabetic, then it's 1. If it's not diabetic, then it's 0. Okay, so all of them are numerical variables only. We do not see any categorical variables. Even though let's have a confirmation whether if there is any category variable or not, which is determined by this second line. If the data type is object, then let's see. So there are 8 numerical variables, none categorical variables and 1 target variable. That's very nice. There are no category variables, so it makes it easier for us. So now the summary statistics. The describe function is used to print the summary statistics, which says the count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, the quartile values and the maximum values of each of the variable. We'll be using the statistical data a lot in our further analysis. So let's proceed further. Here we can see there are no null values. Is null, we have made us is null. Suppose if there are any values, then what is the percentage? So that's why I have taken 2 columns. There are no null values, which is even great. Let's see whether any duplicate values. No duplicate values also. That's really very great. So now let's see the correlation between these variables. Now all are except for these pregnancies and age, which has a correlation of 0.54. Others all are slightly less correlated. Yes, we can see BMI and skin thickness as well, insulin and skin thickness as well. But since this is a very less data, very less amount of data, 739 rows, this correlation is normal only, and we assume that it does not affect our models also. So now this is another function which I am using, the distribution of each of the variable. Well, most of the features are follow the normal distribution except for this insulin. Normal means around 0 only. Skin thickness, it goes up, comes down, and goes up and comes down again. So we need to check on all of these aspects. This is another correlation feature, the pair plot functionality of Seaborn.
A few moments later.
Finally, after that few moments, our pair plot is ready. So we can see it's not at all neat. Some lie at the extreme end, some lie at the extreme center, some lie at the top, some lie at the bottom. The correlation is also not working fine. Alright, so since there is no missing values, let's run a sample model and check the performance. So before running the model, we all know we have to split it into train test dataset. Here I have mentioned the test size as 0.2, that is 20% will be the test data and the 80% will be the train data. So here 614 rows we have taken as the train data and 150 rows as the test data. So here first I am using the random forest classifier. So after running this one, our model gets fit to the train and test data. So now let's see the testing and training accuracies. Wow, training accuracy has 100%. Now this is a clear case of overfitting. So I have already seen, and it would be the same for other tree based models also. I'll show it again. Now let us say so here we are using the decision tree classifier. So let's copy this piece of code and paste here, and then this code also. We'll keep the coding part minimum. Alright. Yes, except we need to replace this random forest classifier with decision tree classifier also. Another overfitting. Wow. As we can see, random forest, decision tree, these are all types of tree based models. So our data, by feeding our data to the tree based models, the model gets overfitted, so which is not at all good. Alright, so let's keep these tree based models aside and let's run a logistic regression model, a linear model. Let's see how does this perform. Alright, with the default parameters, our logistic regression has been fit. Now let's see the accuracies. Alright, the model is not overfitting, but there is a problem in these accuracies. You can see that the testing accuracy is greater than the training accuracy. Wow, this should not be the case. We need to correct this one. So for correcting this, we need to first get rid of the unwanted data. I mean, we need to process it first. So first let's look at the outliers. Here I am creating a temporary copy of the original data so that our original data does not get overridden due to our processing. So how do we analyze outliers? By plotting a box plot. So let's plot all box plots in a single thing itself. Well, now we can see each and all of the variables contains outliers. See, there are 3 here, there's 1 here, there are many here. So each of them we need to analyze very thoroughly and deeply. So first let's move on for pregnancies. For pregnancies, above the outliers lie above the upper whisker. This is the upper whisker, this is the lower whisker, and the central line is the median. Of course, we all know. So let's see how does the summary statistic print. The maximum value is 17. Okay, just forget about this data. Let us talk in a logical sense. Normally, pregnancies means how many times the patient has got pregnant. I mean, only women will get pregnant. That is natural. So 17 is mentioned as the maximum value. So who would have 17 children? That's not even possible, right? Even 75%, 6 children may be a slight possibility, but even that also is an outlier, right? 6 children, it doesn't make any sense. So the median value 50%, the value of 3. Now this makes a lot of sense than the remaining 2. Of course, even I am one of 3 children. I have a brother and a sister, so it's natural. So here we replace the outliers with the median value. So we can make it as so first of all, I forgot to mention one point. Our target variable is the outcome. So based on the outcome, there might be different cases. So if we see here, for outcome 0, the maximum is 13. Outcome 1, the maximum is 17. So it's better that we replace with the median value. Here my median values are 2 and 4. So it's alright. 4 is also a considerable value. So let's replace this. Here I have already written the code for replacing all the outliers for 0 outcome with the median 50%, and for outcome 1 again with the median 50%. Again we plot the box plot and we can see all the outliers have been removed. Alright, so first variable has been processed. Now let's move on to the glucose. So glucose variable has values only below the lower whisker. Okay, but if we look at the summary statistics, the maximum value goes to 199. And that definitely is not an ideal value of glucose, right? And the minimum value is 0. How can a glucose be 0? If glucose is 0, then the person might not at all be alive. So we need to replace this minimum value as well as the maximum value. It's not treated as outlier in the box plot, but according to glucose it is an outlier. So we need to replace it. So here we replace the higher values with the median. We replace the upper values with the median. Sorry, we replace the upper values with the third quartile and the lower values, including the zeros, with the median. So after running this cell, our outliers get cleared, and now it is a normal one. So let's move on to blood pressure. Now there are a lot of outliers below and above the whiskers. First let's have a look at the summary statistics. It's always better to have a target level one. So here minimum value is 0 again. Come on, how can blood pressure be 0? And the maximum 122, 114 and whoever this person is, I feel pity because that person would have been dead. So we need to replace higher values. Higher values means greater than 95. So that should be our ideal range. And the lower values we can replace with the median. Higher values we can replace with the third quartile, 75%. So after running the code, our outliers get cleared, and once again it's again normal. So let's move on to skin thickness. Wow, skin thickness has got just one outlier according to the box plot. But what does our summary statistics say? Let's see. Well, the minimum value of skin thickness is 0. Skin thickness and 0. I mean, does that person have skin at all? And the maximum value is 99. That's the outlier. So then, once again, just like the blood pressure one, we can replace the zeros and the lower values with the median, because there is no value in the first quartile also, 25%. So we replace those lower values with median and the higher values with the third quartile, 75% values. So after running this cell, once again we find our outliers removed. Now for insulin level, there are a lot of outliers above the whisker, and the area where there is no outlier, the minimum value is 0. For how can insulin value be 0 again? This data is really very disturbed. So we need to go through each and every variable very carefully. Then only we can be able to perform our analysis perfectly. So minimum value is 0, maximum value is 744 and 846. Wow. So here those are clearly outliers. So here median where outcome is 1 is also 0. So median of where outcome is 1 is also 0. So when the patient, it means when the patient is diabetic and has insulin, he is not alive. Nice, right? So instead of replacing with its individual value, we replace with the overall median value. Here overall median is 30.5, and here the median for the outcome 0 is 39. So we replace the lower values with the median and the upper values with the third quartile value. So after running the code, our box plot looks like this, and there are no more outliers. So let's see body mass index. Here also there are outliers below and above the whiskers. What does our statistics say? Minimum value is once again 0. If a person's weight is 0, then that person does not exist at all. And maximum value 57.3. I'm not sure what this body mass index is, but I'm sure that it is a function of our body mass, our body weight. So we need to replace the lower outliers with the first quartile value and the upper outliers with the third quartile value. By replacing with that, our box plot gets cleaner again. Now diabetes pedigree function. I am not sure what this does, but there are outliers above the upper whisker. Of course, diabetes pedigree function can be 0, and lower values therefore are valid. But there is no 0 at all. There is 0.07, 0.08. These values are there. So the maximum value is 2.3 and 2.4. These are the outliers. So we need to replace with this with the third quartile value, replacing only the upper outliers. And so the outliers for this variable is also done. Now for age, there are outliers above the upper whisker. Let us see the statistics. So lower values are valid, minimum is 21, but the upper values, there are outliers. I have made the code as if it is greater than the upper whisker value, then replace it with the third quartile. But here the upper whisker is 66.5, and here we can see 66.5 itself is an outlier, so we can't keep that condition. So we just reduce it, round it off to 60. that is a valid value. So we replace those outliers with the third quartile value, and so it has been done. So now all the features have been cleaned and all the outliers have been removed. Let us see the distribution once again. So this is our distribution after replacing all those outliers. Most of the values have been distorted, but since we have used different conditions for different variables, it is okay, it is alright. So let's plot a pair plot also, so that we can see the correlation between the variables.
A few moments later.
So after a few moments, our pair plot has come. So we can see the correlations are now neat. Instead of getting concentrated in just one place, it's been spread evenly. So now it's neater than the previous one. So now we'll move on to standardization. I'll just explain the concept of standardization. Here, as we can see, pregnancies is 6, glucose is 167, BP is 72, skin thickness 36, insulin 39, BMI 30, diabetes predictive function as 0. And age is 50, 31, 32. We can see all the values are inconsistent in each row. Like one is higher, one is smaller, one is extremely high, one is extremely low. So this sort of inconsistencies will definitely affect our model. So we need to bring all of these values to a common scale, to a common standard scale. So that's why we move to standardization. So here we split it into train and test dataset, because we fit the standardizer to the train data and use that same standardizer to transform the train and test variables. So after transforming, this is our data set, and as we can see, all the values are standardized. There are some negative values also, but that's all right. Our data is standardized, and that's what matters. So once our standardization is done, we'll feed it once again to the logistic regression. As we already discussed, models like decision tree and random forest overfit after feeding this data. So we run the logistic regression model instead. Okay, and after running the accuracies, well, our accuracies have improved a lot than before. We can see 88% is training accuracy and 86% is testing accuracy, and this time it has come nicely. What I meant by nicely is, before the testing accuracy was greater than the training accuracy. Now the training accuracy has become greater than testing accuracy, and both of them have improved as well. So our data has been cleaned and processed effectively. So let us check for support vector machine also. We are training different sets of model so that we can see the performance of our data in each model. Here 94 and 93, it has performed better than the logistic regression. Now let's see for the k neighbors. Here also this one has performed better than the support vector machine, 94, 95 and 94. And now for the MLP classifier, this is a type of neural network classifier. Here the training accuracy is highest for this one, but the testing is lower than the previous one, but still it is considerable. It has improved from the previous results. Now, so from this we can conclude that our data was processed correctly and our models are performing effectively. But this is not the best value, right? These values can be improved further. How? By tuning these hyperparameters. So that's why we move on to hyperparameter tuning. So this is a function which I have written for getting the best parameter and the accuracies, precision recall, and F1 score of the best model. So after running this function, it won't return anything now. Now for this logistic regression, here random state I've set as 0, common for everything, and the parameters. The C value I've given as 1, 5, 10 and 50. The solver as Newton CG, LBFGS, LibLinear, Saga and SAG, and maximum iterations as 50, 100, 500. So here we use grid search CV. Why we use grid search CV is, for each of these parameters it will run the model, and after running the model for all the parameters all together, it will return the best the model with the best set of parameters. So our grid search CV has run. Now let's see what is the best parameter. Here best parameter is C as 1, maximum iteration as 50 and solver as Newton CG. And the training accuracies, precision recall and F1 score have improved better than before. Now let's run the same for the support vector model. Okay, it has run. Here the training accuracy is 97, testing is 96. Precision recall and F1 score are also 96. It has improved tremendously than the logistic regression. Let's run it for k nearest neighbors. And for the best parameter and the best model, 95, 94, 94, 94, 94. Nice. Now MLP classifier. This is a type of neural network, as I've already said. Our data set is quite small. That's why it's returning the result quite effectively and nicely and fast also. If the data set was large, like suppose about 10,000 and lakhs of rows of data, then it might take a lot of time to process.
2,000 years later.
So the model has run in 3 minutes, but this 3 minutes went like 2000 years for me. Okay, so let's see the best parameters. Wow, this is the highest performing model so far, 98% in all of the cases. Alright, so we can just we can encapsulate all of this result in a single data frame. Let's plot axis for this one. So as we can see, MLP classifier has performed better than all of the other models, better than SVM or k-nearest model or the linear regression. So at the end, what I can say is, it doesn't matter whether the model performed better or not. A model will perform better only if our data is nice, if our data is clean and neat. So we have analyzed the data, the number of numerical and categorical variables, and also the summary statistics. We have run an initial model to check the performance, and we have found that the performance is quite poor. Then we have analyzed the outliers and handled them effectively with suitable techniques, like whether to replace them with the median or with the upper quartile value or with the lower quartile value or with some other value. Then we have standardized the features to a common scale, and then we ran the models in the corrected and standardized data, and we found that the performance has improved a lot. And we tuned the hyperparameters so that using a grid search CV, so that it can find out the model with the best parameters. So by this I conclude my video. Once again, thanks for watching.